Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for a new episode of Digital Journeys. Today, we are going to learn about continuous improvement and how digitalization plays a role in helping companies on their journey to maximize their business. Joining us today are Jim Holman and Steve Holliday, who are both experts in digital advisory services for Cherry Bekaert. With that, I'll turn it over to Jim.
Thanks, Jerry, for the intro. Now let's get started with Steve. Steve, why does process maturity matter?
Jim, process maturity, when we think about business really kind of measures their growth or improvement by rising revenues or also rising incomes, the bottom line. But when we think about business process, what is the gauge that we're really able to look at and understand the improvement in process or the maturing of process? So we use process maturity as that model. You think about, for example, the needs of a startup company versus maybe the first big step, $20 to $50 million. The needs of those size organizations are going to be different than those that are larger. But no organization is perfectly flush in resource to be able to go out and tackle that all at once. And so some level of prioritization should happen. And so generally speaking, I think a couple questions. One would be, what processes are customer facing? And also, what processes are helping me manage risk?
So you've talked about the different needs of organizations based on scale of the organization. Exactly what do these process attributes look like at different levels of maturity?
Right. Well, there's some different models out there, Jim, but we like the process maturity model, PMM, and it's typically on a 5 scale. And if we think about an organization that's just starting out, it could be that entrepreneur or that business process that's just getting its start. Level 1, it's an initial process. It's kind of ad hoc sometimes, maybe not well documented. So as we move to level 2, we start to see a little bit more documentation, a little bit more management around the process. And it isn't until we get to level 3 then that an organization has really defined its processes. You've got clear process maps, different delegations and areas of responsibility, clear requirements, something to manage the process by. And then that sets up then level 4, which is quantitatively managed. And as that level would suggest, the quantitative part is you've got metrics. You understand what the effectiveness and efficiency targets for that process are, and you've got feedback to management that's telling you how you're doing versus those objectives. And then as you move into a highly performing process, you're now into an optimizing a level where you're using that feedback on an ongoing basis to make ongoing improvements to your process.
So as you have organizations that are moving, hopefully, from level 1 to level 5 or whatever makes sense for their scale of organization, how do you see continuous improvement helping to support this process maturity?
I'm a big believer that all work is a process. And all processes can be improved. I had a couple of different mentors in my background that have kind of echoed that sentiment. And I'm also a big believer in what gets measured gets done. And so when you take a continuous improvement capability, typically, what do we think about when we think about continuous improvement? We think about people who want to dive into the process, map a process, understand how it's performing, what are the requirements. Sometimes we use a frame, whether you call it a SIPOC or a COPUS. I've heard it both ways, but basically at a high level, who is the supplier? And this is the SIPOC. Who is the supplier? What are the inputs into the process? And then you have a view of the process itself. Then you look at the outputs, and then you look at the customer. And you need to understand that entire picture. The requirements on the suppliers for the inputs that they're providing, to feed the process, and then what is going to generate the outputs that the customer needs.
So you've explained to us how continuous improvement can support process maturity. But layering in digitalization, how can digitalization and continuous improvement help to achieve the highest levels of process maturity?
Absolutely. I think back on all the years that I've been in the continuous improvement space. As you're working on any type of improvement, sometimes there's low cost, no cost, things that you can put basic controls into place, things that remind the people that are performing the process of things that they need to do or things that they need to check before passing something along. And at some point in the lifespan of almost any process, you're going to reach a point where, hey, I've made all of the improvements, the low cost, no cost, and you're going to need to invest in some level of digitalization. Some companies make that decision sooner, some delay, but digitalization then is in the tool set of the continuous improvement practitioner. And from my perspective, having grown up in more of the analog era of continuous improvement, where data was not cheap, and we learned how to scrutinize on the critical variables and only put measurements in place around the variables that mattered. And now with digitalization, we have the opportunity to have ready access to data, almost real-time access to data. And so being able to control your processes in near real time, having really strong sources of information that light up dashboards and that can send alerts. And as we think about organizations as they become more mature in their processes, their ability to manage processes will be significantly helped with digitalization.
One thing that in your last answer that really got me thinking is that when you reach level, if and when an organization reaches level 5, where they're truly in an optimization platform, that even then you're not in a situation where you can stop and rest on your laurels. Continuous improvement doesn't stop if you're fortunate enough to hit level 5.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Even the fact that you've achieved level 5, it's called optimizing, which is in essence, you're not done, right? And just the very name of continuous improvement, it's not continual improvement, it's continuous improvement. Continual improvement is in bits and pieces when you feel like it, I guess. And continuous improvement is really an ongoing focus that you always keep in your sights how the process is performing, what are the things we can do to improve. There's just a distinct difference, and organizations that embed continuous improvement are just they're different DNA. There's a difference in the mindset and the focus of those organizations. I've been around some companies that have done that well. I've also seen some companies that want to do that well, but they're just obstacles that get in the way. But definitely that level 5 optimizing is an ongoing attribute.
Yeah. Well put. If you'd like to learn more about how Cherry Bekaert can help you with improving your business processes, please contact us.
Thank you for the great discussion today, Jim and Steve. And as always, we would appreciate it if you would like or share this podcast. Stay tuned for more digital journeys.